I'm Becky Gannon, and I'm mad about miniatures. Today, we are talking to Casey about the miniature ugly shoes she makes, her career as a handbag designer, and all things mini. Casey is on Instagram at Smallish Miniatures. Let's go talk to Casey. Hello, Casey. I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Hi, Becky. Thanks so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. So we met in Philly a couple years ago, and it was your first show, right?
Yep, my first show ever in the miniature world. I decided to do it while I was 8 months pregnant, which looking back, I don't know if that was the best idea, but it worked out.
Well, it made you very memorable.
Yep.
I think you were the only one at the show 8 months pregnant that was selling miniatures. So you caused kind of a sensation at the show. Your Birkenstocks became the must-have item of that show.
Yeah, and that was kind of a fun surprise. Yeah, being my first show, I wasn't really sure what was going to sell, but I had gotten some good traction on Instagram when I posted my Birkenstocks, so I made a bunch for the show. And looking back, I wish I'd made more. They sold out on like midway through day 2.
Oh, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised they made it all the way through day 1. I think I got the patent cobalt blue ones.
Yep.
I now have custom teal ones.
Yeah, I made a variety of colors, again, testing to see what would be the most popular.
Is brown the most popular?
Yeah, kind of the traditional brown color that you might own in real life.
They come with a little box, too.
Yep, a little box of tissue paper.
Yes, that was really cool. And I think that's when I first sort of stopped and saw everything you have. And what I love about your miniatures is you have like all those everyday items that I don't think of making or putting in miniature, like Kleenex boxes or egg slicers or even like little pastel measuring cups. All the little items, but decorative and modern.
When I think about what miniatures I want to make, I try to look around my house and see like what would I want to see in my dollhouse to make it more realistic and feel like somebody really lives there. And, the kitchen is a functioning kitchen with a little egg slicer and maybe a recipe box. So I really like to take what's in my house and then shrink it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I definitely do things decorative wise in my dollhouse that I can't necessarily do in my real house. Like I wallpaper every room and, I have a velvet couch in my dollhouse and I have 2 little kids, so I can't have nice things right now. I try to add things to my dollhouse that are kind of aspirational for my real house.
Oh, I know. I have never wallpapered in my entire life, but I just adore wallpaper for dollhouses.
Yeah. Yeah, I love mixing patterns and colors and really go for that like maximalist look.
Yes, me too. So this past April, you were at the Chicago show.
I was, yep. Yeah, my first time in Chicago. So that was really exciting.
So for your first time in Chicago, did it make you nervous? Was it exciting? Because it is the world's biggest miniature show.
Yeah, I was a little intimidated, not really knowing what to expect. This was my first time ever at the Chicago show. I hadn't gone to shop the show even. So a little unsure of what to expect, but everybody was really nice and, it went seamlessly. So lots of great new connections. And I actually saw a lot of the same shoppers that I saw in Philly. So that was nice to see some familiar faces. Yeah, my nerves went away pretty quickly.
Oh, that's good. When you're looking at a show, what's the hardest part? Deciding what to make, deciding what to bring, making the big display, all of the above?
Kind of all of the above. It was interesting to see what sold at the Philly show versus what didn't sell at the Chicago show, or vice versa. I had made these little shapes puzzles that didn't really sell in Philly, but I almost sold out of them in Chicago. So it's interesting to see the difference in, what people were looking for maybe.
So it's hard with the puzzles, like maybe they were buying your signature items and then they came back for that. Shape puzzles. It must be so hard to figure that out.
Yeah, it's really tricky to predict. Yeah, I just do my best kind of based on past sales or, what maybe got a good reaction on Instagram when I posted like teasers. It's hard to predict.
So you're kind of known a little bit as the ugly shoe girl. How do you feel about that?
I actually kind of love that. So. I wear a lot of comfortable shoes in real life. I mean, back in my 20s when I lived in New York City and I'd run around the city in heels, but kind of over the heels at the moment and love my Birkenstocks and, my Crocs and really comfortable shoes. So I wanted to see those in my mini house, which is why, I tried to make them in the first place. And now I kind of have a reputation as being the ugly shoe girl.
Right, because you make Birks, you make Crocs. The Crocs came out in Chicago, and so did the Uggs, right?
Yep, the Uggs. I actually had the Crocs just at the Philly show. Then I introduced the Uggs at in Chicago.
Okay, and then you also make Tivas.
Yep, and the Tevas.
Like you could start an ugly shoe store,
Yep.
or as people my age call them, comfort shoes.
Comfort shoes, yeah.
I don't know which is better.
Yeah.
So, of all of those, are your Birks still the most popular?
Yeah, those by far are the most favorite.
And which are the hardest to make? I'm going to guess the Uggs.
Yeah, they're hard because I do hand stitch the top seam and then just getting them to wrap perfectly around the sole takes some finessing. So those are harder to make.
I would guess so. And then you also have something that looks like suede or leather and something that looks like fleece. So you're wrapping this material around it.
Yep. And making sure the glue doesn't smudge and and just getting the faux shearling to sit just right.
I made some cute little shoes from a little kit from Dragonfly International, and they had it was just paper, but they had you trying to like meet that up with the sole. And I must have shaped it like 20 times.
Yeah.
To get that curve. And so that's what I was guessing with the Ugg is and you have to get 2 layers of fabric to do that.
Yeah, and I spent hours just perfecting the little paper pattern before it sat right on the sole. So that took a long time.
How many different paper patterns did you go through?
I think I went through like 7 or 8, and it took me like all day.
I can see that. Well, and what's hard with miniatures and material is you can get the thinnest fabric you can, but it's still not as thin. It's still not the proper reduction.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting the right scale in the proper material is so challenging. And I love mixing media. Like on my Birkenstocks, I do have the actual like cork around the sole. So I want to get as much of the realism with the, conveyed with the materials as I can. But then the scaling is always very challenging.
And how do you get the cork that thin?
So I hand slice it with a very sharp X-Acto knife.
What?
I have a cork sheet, and then I just slice the layers that I then put around the sole.
Oh.
Yeah, I have to change out the razor blade every time to get a really finite, smooth cut.
Wow. That sounds hard.
Yeah, it's a little challenging.
So are the Tivas the easiest ones to make?
Actually, they're a little challenging just, getting the straps all wrapped around the tiny little triangle buckles.
Oh.
Yeah, that takes a long time. So those are pretty challenging as well.
It sounds like it's all pretty challenging.
Yep.
Are the Crocs all 3D printed?
Yeah, the Crocs are probably the easiest because those are 3D printed. And then I was airbrushing the color on. Then I discovered these acrylic paint markers, and that's made it a lot easier to get all the variety of colors because with an airbrush, changing out the different colors just takes a while as far as the cleanup and cleaning in between colors.
Is that what you used on my teal blow dryer?
Yeah, I use the acrylic markers.
Oh, that's a really smooth finish. Do you mind sharing what brand those are?
Yeah, I use Shuttle Art, and those have been great. You do have to do a couple different layers, but it goes on really smooth and adheres to the resin really, really nicely. So it's been kind of a game changer. It just takes away some of the tedious time that it takes to clean the airbrushes, and you can switch between colors. So I'm finding I can do more colors in a shorter amount of time.
Oh, that's good.
Like for the blow dryers and Crocs.
Can you get those on Amazon or do you have to use like a art supply store?
Oh, no, they're on Amazon.
Oh, great. Great. That is one of the things that's hard for me with miniatures is that stop, clean up, stop, wait for glue to dry.
Yep. Oh my God, I hate waiting for glue to dry or paint.
Yes. When I started during COVID, that was the hardest thing for me. And it took me like a couple weeks to learn, You really have to have almost 2 or 3 things going at once so that you have something to do, right? While you're waiting.
Yep. Yeah, I always have at least like 5 different projects kind of going simultaneously, just because, one thing is drying and then the other is, maybe also drying, or I can get that in the works. So, yeah, it helps to have kind of a rotation of different projects going.
Now, as a miniaturist, I have like 40 projects going on at any one time,
Yeah.
which is too many.
Sometimes I have too many things going on and my work table is just covered and I'm literally working in like a tiny space that's maybe 5 inches by 5 inches. And then I have to take a step back and like, okay, I need to tone it down and yeah, get one project off the plate before I add another one.
I thought I was the only one who did that.
Nope.
I have this enormous table. And it starts off, I have about half of it because, I have all these things on it that have to be there.
Yeah.
And then it gets smaller and smaller until, like you
Yeah.
said, yesterday I was working on plants and I'm down to about 5 inches. So I won't be able to make
Yep.
anything today.
And then I'm pushing things out of the way and things that are gluing or falling over.
Yeah, that seems inevitable. I don't know how to fix that.
Yep.
If anyone has any
Yeah.
ideas, please contact me immediately. I'm all ears. So you loved Chicago. Are you going to do Chicago and Philly again next year?
Yep. And this year I'm actually teaching a class. So I'm really excited to add that to Philly.
Oh, what are you going to teach?
I'm going to teach chair making. So I'm going to teach the class how to make a woven kind of mid-century modern chair.
Ooh, that sounds really fun. Like leather strips,
Yeah.
plastic strips.
Faux suede strips and how to weave them into the seat and the back and also add a little pillow. And the chair is going to be, the frame of the chair is wood.
Oh, and how do you make that?
So I am going to laser cut the pattern out first. So it'll be like a kit for the class to put together and then add the leather strips.
I love mid-century modern, as do you, I know. I may have to
Yes.
take that class.
Okay. I'd love to have you.
So do you have a lot of mid-century modern in your home?
I have pieces here and there. Yeah, that's kind of a style I gravitate towards. Yeah, I have those dotted throughout my house.
I find they're more affordable in miniature, though.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get a little pricey outside of that
Oh, yeah.
1/112 scale.
Yeah. I have like one chair in my living room that's mid-century modern that my husband and I like absolutely love, and we try not to let the kids sit on, but yeah, we have like one piece.
So you were 8 months pregnant in Philly, and now, of course, you have
Yep.
2 kids.
Yep. Now I have 2, and Simone is 1 and Vivian is 3.
Wow.
And Vivian's the one I was pregnant with at Philly the first time around.
I've thought about this a lot because I had 2 boys. They're grown now, but
Mm-hmm.
when they were little, my idea, like people would say, do you have a hobby? And I would say like showering by myself or going to the bathroom by myself. And I was only like half kidding,
Yeah.
But now I think I definitely didn't have time to learn a hobby, but I do wonder if I'd had a hobby, because it's easier if it's already established and you have the tools and you know what you're doing. If that would have been good for me, like if that would have helped me with that whole sense of self.
It does help me. I mean, I started miniatures well before I had my girls. I wanted to continue that even after I had the girls. Of course, I want to spend time with them, but I think it's important to still maintain my own hobbies that I, had before them. So I tend to work a lot at night. I don't get as much sleep as I probably should, but it's nice, once they go to bed, I can go down to my studio. And my husband's great. Like on the weekends, we both try to make time for each other's different hobbies. So like he'll take the girls to the park and I'll do the same if he wants to work on his hobbies.
So you've actually been making miniatures for like ever. So usually when I, ask someone to be on the show, I kind of stalk their Instagram. And your Instagram went back to 2018. It took me a couple coffee times to get through it.
Yep. Yeah, I started a while ago. I actually started making miniatures when I was about 12.
Wow.
One of my older sisters, she had this jogging route near my house. And so she would jog around and she happened to go by somebody's trash and they were throwing out this dollhouse. So she went back later with her car and brought it home and said, here, I found a project for you. Because I always loved tiny things. I took it as a challenge and got out some books from the library. One of my favorite books was the new Dollhouse Do-It-Yourself book by Venus and Martin Dodge. It was written in the 80s, but it was great because it had paper patterns on the pages that you could, photocopy and then cut out yourself. And the challenging thing about the house that my sister found was it was 1/16 scale. So it was kind of an odd scale. So I had to make everything myself. It was really challenging. I mean, Lundby, the European brand, is 1/16 scale. So I was able to get a couple of those pieces to add to my house, but everything else I had to make because everything out in the market is 1/12. So I got a scroll saw for my birthday and was hand cutting wood patterns for like dining room chairs and tables. So I really learned a lot just from, having to make everything myself for the weird scaled house.
You had a lot of skills and initiative for a 12-year-old.
Yeah. I mean, I always loved arts. I was always taking art classes and just always creating toys and games for my sister and myself. I just kind of upped the game with the miniatures. So my next two houses, like I did get two houses, one on my Towns Buy Nothing group, and then another one on Facebook Marketplace that are 1/12 scales. I'm excited to start on those and be able to kind of join the rest of the world in 1/12 scale.
So when you were 12, you had that one, and then when did you get another one?
So 2 years ago, I got the 1/12 scale house.
That was a big break.
Yeah. Well, so I've been working on the 1/16 scale house that I got when I was 12 for off and on for like years. I mean, I worked on it when I was 12 and then maybe 13, and then I kind of took a break. I kind of lost interest in the whole dollhouse
Sure.
world. Then in my 30s, I had moved from the city to the suburbs and I finally had space to set up a studio. So I brought the house back from my parents' attic and dove right back into it. And then I discovered the Instagram community that really, it was very inspirational to see what other miniaturists were doing out there. I've kind of just gone down that rabbit hole and haven't looked back.
So when did you start making things in 1/12?
So for the shows, I made everything in 1/12 scale because I knew that was the universal scale. Really for Philly was the first time I scaled everything to 1/12
Oh,
for the show.
I didn't realize that. So you've been working in
Yep.
that wacky scale.
Yeah. Yeah. So most of the furniture that I'd been doing was for my 1/16 scale house. But then if I wanted to make something for the show, I would just rescale it. And some of the accessories are interchangeable, but I wanted to make sure that I was making 1/12 for the shows.
So 1/12 must seem big.
Yeah, it does. Some of the furniture seems huge to me after working in 1/16, but now that I have the 1/12 scale house, I'm, getting used to that scale.
When I was in California, I visited my friend Tanya from Grandma Gets Real. And of course, she does all Barbie things. And we
Oh,
spent
yeah.
the day together and we made a diorama together. And Barbie stuff, if you haven't worked with it directly for a while, it is huge. I mean, the couches are enormous. You have to pick them up with both hands.
Yep.
It's huge. And, she has these dioramas, and the dioramas take up the room of like 4 room boxes.
Yeah, my daughter is getting into Barbies, and I had saved all my old Barbie furniture and dolls and clothes from when I was little, and getting those out of the box, I'm like, oh my God, these seem so big.
I didn't realize that 1/12 was that you came so late to that.
Yep.
So you come by your art background with natural talent and then lots of education and practice.
I did my undergrad at it's Massachusetts College of Art in Boston. Yeah, I majored in fashion design, and I was able to also take elective classes. And all throughout high school, I also took like a lot of art classes. So that kind of just built my resume for getting into college. And then I took my fashion degree and moved to New York City and had a career in handbag design for about 14 years.
Wow.
And then,
is that what you wanted to do when you went to college? Did you want to design handbags?
yep.
Yes?
Actually, handbags. Yeah, I kind of fell into that. I always liked handbags. And I took an accessories class in college, but I kind of just hit the pavement when I moved to New York City and was looking for anything in the fashion industry and happened to fall into handbags. And it really worked out well for 14 years. I had a really fun career. Got to go to China twice a year to our factories over there. Got to travel to LA and London for shopping trips. So it was a great career.
That sounds great. What kind of bags did you make?
I worked for a company called Rossetti. So we did kind of the mid-tier level handbag design. So we sold to Kohl's and JCPenney, TJ Maxx, and I did some private label for Walmart and Target and Kmart. I got to do some celebrity brands like Sofia Vergara for Kmart. So
Ooh.
yeah, it was a fun variety.
And I have something here about Beyonce's mom in my notes.
Yes, Miss Tina, Beyonce's mom, was pitching a line to Walmart, and I got to design the totes for her line, and I got to meet with her, and she complimented my outfit, and that is one of my favorite memories from my career.
Oh my gosh.
Beyonce's mom loving my outfit.
You got to keep that outfit forever.
Oh yeah. Yep, I still have it.
So that's interesting you bring out tote bags, because one of the things I always think of when I think of you is that big display of tote bags you have, where you have like, I don't know, 20, 30 different ones hanging up in a cute little grid display. And they all have really fun little sayings on them.
Yeah, so it was kind of fun for me to take my handbag construction knowledge and shrink it. I felt like I was getting back to my roots. Yeah, some of my totes have cute little sayings, and I've added rings to the handles. And then I made some other like perforated totes with little mag snaps closures. It's been really fun taking my fashion career or my past knowledge of handbags and shrinking it.
How do you come up with all the little funny sayings? Let's see, I'm trying to think. What is one of something about no adulting today? Or
Oh yeah. I mean, I do like shop around Pinterest and, find funny phrases that I enjoy and that I'd love to see in a tote.
so throw out a few because I can't remember them.
One of them is thou shalt not try me 24/7, #mom. Basically a bunch of shit I can't live without.
My favorite.
And then, yeah, something about I can't adult today and tomorrow's not looking great either.
Yes, I love that. And that's my first memory of us conversing is at Philly. I was trying to get a picture of all those handbags, but it's a grid, but you can see behind the grid. And your poor, delightful mom was sitting behind the grid. And I was trying to get her. When someone's in a picture, I'm always like, either be all in, like smile and, act like we're doing this on purpose, or get out. Like you're in or you're out.
Yeah.
But usually I just say that up front. But, with your mom, I was trying to be a little more gracious about it. But finally, she was just like, I'm out of here.
She like ducked. Yep.
And now I swear in Chicago, when I came, she like got up and like ran away from the grid.
Yeah.
She's coming.
She's like, oh, Becky's going to take a picture.
I don't think I've ever, when I say either be all in or all out, the answer is almost always, I'm all out.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
Yes, I love those. And you made me the most special tote I'll ever have, which is a little tote. And somehow you got my whole long thing I say at the end of every podcast, which is there are no rules in your dollhouse except for those you make for yourself. And you got that all in there. And then, of course, the little leather handles are, you guessed it, people, they're teal.
Yep, and they match your Birkenstocks.
They do match my Birkenstocks. And then this time you had like some little fun doormats too.
Yep. Yeah. I like to add a little bit of humor to my dollhouse with doormats that say like knock slowly. So we have a chance to put on pants. And then, I'll have some funny phrases on mugs. So I like to add a little bit of humor to the dollhouse.
I like that. That's fun. So after you left the handbags job, what did you do next?
So I pivoted into graphic design at Party City, and I led a team that would design, the plates and cups, banners, so kind of every aspect that you'd need for a party.
That is like my dream job. When the kids were growing up, I got so into their birthday parties. I made we had boxes for moving and I made them into like a big tunnel for my kids to crawl through and I made castles,
Oh, that's great.
all kinds of crazy things. Looking back, they don't look as Pinteresty as I would like. But that was before Pinterest, so people were impressed.
Yeah.
So when I walked down the Party City aisle, you were the person who made sure there were shark napkins and shark cups and little shark erasers as party favors.
Yeah, yeah, I had another, like, there were two other art directors that I worked alongside of, and we divided up the categories throughout the store. So we each had different holidays and then birthdays. I did some licensed parties as well.
Oh, tell me about some of the licensed one, like Disney or Scooby-Doo or...
Yep, we did Disney. We designed a tablescape for the new Snow White movie that was coming out. We did Bluey, kind of everything, Hot Wheels, Barbie. We had a really fun Barbie set when the Barbie movie came out.
Now, for Halloween and Christmas, do you kind of divide it up? Like, I feel like when I go into Target or any store for plates or even just anything Christmas, I feel like there's always a couple different Christmases, glitzy Christmas, farm Christmas, or like Halloween, like scary Halloween, really scary Halloween, kid-friendly Halloween. Did you divide it up into subcategories like that?
Yeah, we did a lot of trend market research and wanted to make sure that we covered each customer, the customer who likes really scary Halloween with blood and gore, and then the, more friendly side of Halloween that you could throw a kid party with, happy ghosts. So it was kind of fun to follow the trends and then apply those to our tablescapes.
Ah, that's fun. And how long did you work there?
So I was there for about 5.5 years. Unfortunately, the company wasn't doing well, and my team all got laid off in December, which actually kind of spurred my launch into doing miniatures full time.
Wow. Well, yeah, is Party City in bankruptcy?
Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. So
no fault of yours.
No. So unfortunately, yeah, it's just a tough market out there. So yeah, Party City is going through bankruptcy, and yeah, the future is a little undetermined right now.
So you decided to try doing it full time? Did you tell me you were giving yourself a year or 2 years or?
Yeah. So, when I was laid off, my husband and I, sat down and talked about like what are the next steps in my career. And, I had been doing miniatures as a side hustle for a while, and we kind of plotted out like, is this feasible to try to do full time? And yeah, we decided like just go for it. Now's as good a time as any. Yeah, I'm exploring a bunch of different avenues to see if I can do miniatures, as my full time career. I'm about 5 months in and still, figuring it out, but so far so good.
Yay!
We're going to have a little checkpoint at a year and see where I'm at, and then, if I'll go forward with it.
It seems to me that the real ticket is seeing if you can get some of those collabs with like consumer products. That's what seems to really pay the best. Have you been fortunate enough to land any of those yet?
No, not yet. That is kind of the next step, is to, go approach some brands and try to pitch them ideas.
Do you have a brand you'd love to work for?
Yeah, I would love to maybe work and do some collaborative projects with a handbag company. I think that would be really fun. Kind of, again, incorporating my roots in the handbag industry, and maybe some beverage companies.
Oh, that would be fun.
Like craft beer. My husband and I do home brewing, so maybe some craft beer. Also, maybe Joybird furniture would be amazing. I love their couches.
That's where you got inspired by the green velvet sofa, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I love their velvet furniture. So those pieces have always inspired my miniature furniture.
And one thing I love about the things you make is I love your Kleenex boxes. This is going to sound silly.
Oh, thank you.
They are the only like modern, bright, really decorative Kleenex boxes I found. And when I saw them with their little mid-century modern, I was so excited. And they match my pillows, which is fun, that I got from you.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I like to use patterns across the board, like for different pieces so that everything matches.
I like that because if the colors work, they work. And I recently got a leopard one because I'm doing an art studio in memory of my mom, who is an artist.
Oh,
And like me, she had sort of a favorite. I'm not going to say color because her favorite was leopard. To
okay.
her, it was a neutral, like teal is
Nice.
for me. And you had a little leopard Kleenex box.
Yep. I love that. Leopard is my favorite neutral too.
Yes,
So,
she was like, it goes with everything. And if it doesn't,
yep.
then who needs it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I love how you bring that sort of decorative, like merchandising sense to everything you make.
Thank you.
So, what's the hardest thing that you make? What's something fussy that when you're like, I have to sit down and make X?
I think the couches, those are really challenging to get the fabric to lay right, especially, finding the right thickness of velvet
Mm.
so that it doesn't look bunched up. So those are really challenging to make.
And then I heard you hand paint your pencils.
I do.
That must take a while too.
For such a simple item, those are surprisingly tedious. I do 3D print the pencil itself, but then I get out my magnifying glasses and some bright lights and my tweezers, and I sit and I hand paint the pencils.
I made some little paintbrushes by hand, and that's not nearly as hard to paint. You just kind of put a little blob of metal in and then,
Yeah.
But it took quite a while, to get it right.
Yeah. Yeah, the pencils are challenging, but they're so satisfying when you have like this little handful of all these tiny pencils.
What's one of your tools that you couldn't live without if you could only have one? Your laser cutter,
Hmm.
your...
I think the 3D printer, that's opened up so many more possibilities for me. So I got my resin printer about, let's see, 5 years ago, or no, 6 years ago, sorry. And just to get the right shapes, I was constantly saving pen caps and, any little plastic items that I could then repurpose into miniatures. So being able to print the shape that I want for like a blender or the little measuring cups has been kind of a game changer. So do love the 3D printer.
So do you get any comments like backlash against the 3D printing? Do people say, oh, did you just 3D print that? Sometimes I think they think you just push a button.
Yeah. I haven't really gotten any negative comments, but I've seen comments out there that some view the 3D printer as like cheating, but there is a lot of work behind it. I spend hours fine tuning of the actual 3D file. So I make all my own 3D files using Tinkercad, which is a web-based program. There's so many great 3D programs out there. That just happens to be the one that I use. And, I can spend hours just getting the right, size. I'll, print a proto and it won't be the right scale or it'll fall off the plate. So there's a lot of fine tuning and tinkering with just getting your file correct and then, getting support.
Yeah, and there's some things you just can't make without it.
Yeah. And I do like to try to add other materials to my 3D prints. Like, for example, the Birkenstocks actually have a 3D printed sole, but then I layer on the real leather and the cork and the metal buckles and then like the foam soles. So I like to build on the 3D print just so it gives that extra element of realism.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, I think it's like anything else, It's what you use it for, what you make of it,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like any other tool. At the end of the day, it's about the vision and the other things you put into it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I have a question. When you meet someone new and you say you make minis, what do they say?
Some people give me a confused look. They're like, for dollhouses? Yeah, throughout my career, it was always, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I design handbags or I'm a graphic designer. But now a miniaturist is something that not everyone like knows about. But then it turns into delight. So when they're like, wait, you make tiny things. So yeah, it's a little like flow that it goes through from like confused to delight.
I find I almost have to show a picture. I'll say dollhouse miniatures and they'll like repeat it back to me like they don't know what those words mean.
Yeah. Or they'll, people will think it's just for kids and not realize that there's a whole artisan community making like high-end miniatures that kids are not allowed to play with.
Ah, and you have two very young daughters. Do you let them play with your miniatures? I imagine they would want to.
Yeah, I mean, the 1-year-old wants to eat everything,
Oh,
so she is not allowed in the studio.
yeah.
But my 3-year-old, she comes down and she's like, "Oh, mommy, I love your dollhouses," and she wants to see what I'm making, and she's very careful, so I'll let her hold things. And she actually contributed to a couple of my pieces that I sold in Chicago. She hand painted the paintings on my little child-size easel.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, it was a great little collaboration project.
So when do you think is a good age for her to get a dollhouse?
I think maybe around 5 or 6. She does have one of those Calico Corner or Calico Critters houses, and she, will put arrange furniture, but kind of she's not totally focused on that yet. So I think maybe in a couple years I'll have her do a collaboration, like I'll do a dollhouse for her and have her pick out the wallpaper and the paint colors and decide what furniture she wants.
I love that you're putting that as a collaboration between you and
Yes.
your daughter. It's very professional.
She'll be the art director. I'm sure everything will be pink, but
You might get a little purple in there. Is there anything you want to make that you have not made?
miniature food. I used to make polymer clay food, when I was 12, and I'd love to really step that up and learn how to make proper food out of the polymer clay. There's some food artists out there that I'm just in awe of, like real oranges that you can peel, or not real, but like clay oranges that you can peel, and some of the textures of meat and glazes. And yeah, it's just incredible what some of the artists out there can do.
So the orange she's talking about is from Pat from Twin Heart Miniatures,
Yes, yep.
Twin Heart Minis, and she makes this orange where you can not only peel it, but then inside are the little orange segment.
I'm just in awe of her food.
Oh yeah, and all her vegetables you can actually slice, and like a tomato looks like a
Hmm.
tomato inside.
Yeah.
And whenever she comes to a show, she always says this huge line. And if there's a lot of people I don't recognize that look like they've never shopped with her before, I always walk past the line and say, get 2 oranges because you want to peel one right away and then you
Yep.
want to keep one.
Yeah, I met her in Philly the first time I went to Philly to shop the show. It was 2 years before I was a vendor, and I stayed at her table for, I don't know, like half an hour, just in awe of all the miniature food. And I bought a little purple cabbage, mushrooms. So those are some of the first like really realistic mini food that I purchased.
Oh yeah, I have a whole farm stand.
Yep.
Every time she sees me, she goes, I have something new. I'm like, oh no.
Yep. Yeah, and I sat next to her on the bus. I had to stay at Spring Hill Suites one of the nights in Chicago, so we had to take the shuttle back and forth to the show, and she was on the bus with me, and she had been like working at the hotel on more food, and she was showing me some of her pieces on the bus. She's so delightful, and yeah, she's great.
You know what's interesting about the food people though, with a few notable exceptions, is a lot of times they make just food or primarily food.
Hmm. Yeah, the food miniaturists out there seem to they've found their niche and yeah, only make food.
So it'll be interesting. Will you find food and just make it as a side thing, or will you just become all about food? Or if I see you in a year, will you be like, food? What food?
Yeah.
I don't like making many
We'll see.
food.
Well, I'm excited. I'm taking 2 food making classes at the Guild show in September.
So that'll be so fun that you're taking some classes. You'll have to let me know how they turn out.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really excited to learn a new skill.
And isn't that what's so fun about miniatures? I mean, you never get bored of it because if you get bored of making plants or making couches, you can just make something else.
Yeah, like the possibilities just seem endless. So it keeps it interesting and yeah, just really exciting to see, okay, what can I make next?
I know. I love that. Well, Casey, it's been so fun having you on. I'm just so enchanted by your miniatures. I love my little teal Birks and my little handbag and all my little Kleenex boxes and pillows and pencils.
Oh, well, thank you, Becky.
They just add so much fun. You know, they're always bright and colorful.
Yeah, thank you. That's kind of my goal is to bring joy to people's dollhouses.
I mean, isn't that why we do this? To bring us joy?
Yeah, just to bring some joy to the world.
Absolutely. And we wish you so much luck in the
Thank you so
coming
much.
year. And I can't wait to see you. I guess the next time I see you will be in Philly.
Yep, yep, I'll see you there.
And I'll be rushing to get the latest new ugly shoes.
Love it.
Well, thanks again, Casey. Talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, Becky.
Bye bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed talking to Casey as much as I did. If you liked the podcast, please consider leaving a review on your podcast platform or comment on my Instagram. Check out my Instagram, Mad About Miniatures, to find out when my next podcast comes out. And remember, there are no rules in your dollhouse except those you make for yourself. Goodbye.